A University of Pennsylvania doctor attended the UW-Madison Badger Bash to spread the word about the importance of Narcan ahead of the homecoming game. Now, this is part of the Ready to Rescue campaign, which educates people about opioid emergencies and how to save someone from overdose. Narcan, the nasal spray used to treat an opioid overdose, was available at the event. The doctor promoting the campaign says that she's working to raise awareness and break the stigma around carrying Narcan.
It's effective, it works, and now we're just starting to see overdose deaths decline as a result of not only this drug, but also interventions, public awareness. We should not be ashamed to have this medication on hand.
As there are 3 important steps to using Narcan: lay, spray, and stay. That means if you use the medication, you should lay the person down, spray it once in their nose, and then stay with them while they recover.